I'm a JavaScript guy pretty much through and through because it just helps me get out what I want to get out. If anything, if the next language that I want to learn is probably Rust because of everything that's going on with WebAssembly. I haven't looked at someone coding in a while. Forgot that what this was like. Yeah, man, it's I don't know. I find it fun. I think it's a pretty cool, it's a pretty powerful thing. You unlock a lot of cool shit. Uh, okay, so yeah, Rust. It's okay. Yeah, yeah. It's probably overhyped. Um, there's a lot of people who use Rust in the systems community. It seems like it was like kind of like a spiritual successor to C++ in a lot of ways. But I've if you've ever seen those, hold on, there's oh wait, Alt 7. We were looking at Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's uh, Substack. If you've ever seen those Stack Overflow surveys, the developer surveys, have you ever seen these, John? Um, they always have like Rust is like just the top of the list on all of these um, most popular technologies. Wait, most loved. Yeah, like Rust is just always crushing it. Like I don't know like what the Rust community does to, but you're right. I also don't necessarily like the syntax. I like the code, like the way that they handle like web packaging or packaging. I think Rust has a cool cargo mechanism. I think is the thing it is, right? I'm actually kind of again unfamiliar with Rust, and I think Golang does something similar, right? Doesn't Golang have its own cargo kind of situation? Um, but yeah, I mean, like where's JavaScript here? It's like 61%, right? Like people don't like JavaScript. I love JavaScript. I feel like JavaScript does most of the things that I need. So far, benchmarks put Golang at par with Rust, though Golang is 1,000 times easier to use. I dreaded learning Rust. That's interesting. Yeah, I. That's interesting. Yeah, I have a friend who she actually speaks at Go conferences, so she's like a big Go gopher or whatever the Go community calls themselves, and she yeah, I think that it's that's interesting. Why is it that that Rust is harder than Go? Is it just that like Go was just it's just has more library support, or is it that Rust is just like too weirdly specific or something like that? I think that would be my question as like a JavaScript TypeScript kind of person. That's actually a second question. Which language would be easier for a JavaScripter to learn? Go is just an easier language to use and learn. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I wonder. Do you use it mainly for like the systems and stuff? The garbage collector helps ease the difficulty. It's 1 million times easier for a JavaScript. Okay, then yeah. Then I would definitely learn Go, because like I feel like whenever I think of Go, I think of like package management stuff, right? Like Kubernetes and stuff. Am I right about that? Or like what do people like usually use Go for that I wouldn't I would be interested? Like what kind of projects do Go people generally find themselves taking on? Because I think that that's something that would help me, because like when I think of like Rust, I think of like WebAssembly basically, and I'm more interested in like generally building like web apps and stuff. I do a lot of stuff with like 3JS and GPT. Rust is used for replacing C++ components, things that need to run very, very fast and just mimicking C++ code. Oh, interesting. Interesting. For web apps, I recommend Golang full stop. Oh, that's interesting. Have you written web apps in Go? I guess you can write web apps in anything. I've written a lot of Python web apps using like Django. Is there like a Django for Golang? What's that called? What's Golang's server? HTML templates, format, OS, body. Interesting. a RESTful API in Go is pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, like, I've definitely, I think that, yeah, this actually does look pretty good. Um, because I like came up with Node, it was just like really fast for me to do it. Wasm and Rust in the browser is cool, but I would never use it in production because React remains king. Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at in general too. I think that that sentiment that you just said nails it pretty hard. Where for me, using um, JavaScript as like a full stack type application just works. Don't be scared of the Go syntax. It's kind of bad, but it's not too bad. Yeah, it doesn't look awful. I mean, it definitely looks harder than like TypeScript. You know what I mean? Obviously, like I said, I'm just a feeble JavaScripter. But it does look a lot like TypeScript. Like I'm seeing the type be after the thing. This spread operator that kind of reminds me of Python. Uh, String interpolation, very similar to Python string interpolation. It looks like array list manipulation, which is pretty cool. JavaScript doesn't have list manipulation. That's one of the most annoying things about JavaScript, in my opinion, is that there's no easy way to manipulate lists. If you can understand copy by value and copy by reference, then you'll understand pointers and Golang. Dude, yeah, I studied computer science in college, and that was like one of the hardest things for me to understand was pointers and value, like copying by value and copying by reference. That was definitely not my strong suit. If anything, it was kind of a weak suit for me. I felt like the systems classes were the classes where I kind of struggled the most to really kind of latch into the material. But I don't know. Have you ever heard of like Deno deploy at all? This app is pretty popular. Do not see pointers. Yeah, I've used Java before. Um, yeah, I don't know. I use Java actually at work. So I used to work at HBO as a software engineer, and we used Java. We were mainly a Java shop. We were moving a little bit into JavaScript. This was the year that GraphQL came out. Pointers and Go behave like Java. Okay, okay, that makes sense. So you would treat them as kind of like an instance then. So you would like call it as like dot this one, I guess. Um, so this like and page here would be like a an instance. Is that what you're saying? This and page title. When you pass a Java object as a function parameter, it doesn't copy it. It's just a reference. Yes. Yeah. It's the same thing in JavaScript too. Actually, JavaScript just passes the reference. You need to like use the slice operator to get a brand new object, which causes a lot of problems with like prototypes and stuff like that. Like that's something that trips people up, I think, a lot in JavaScript. So it's funny that we all share the same kind of problems. Yeah, I mean, Go definitely is still crushing it. Like I've see all these like companies using this thing, and page is like new page in Java. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So like what is the that's pretty crazy. Do like people use Go for every like do you find yourself like pulling Go out of your toolbox as like your main tool? Like for me, it's like I always just open up a new Node.js server because it just like makes sense, right? Like I'm just like, oh, I have all my packages at hand and I can do my in like, you know, even for this project that you're just seeing right now, I have you know, like my OpenAI package. Yeah, quick hacking. Yeah, I agree. Node.js is really great for quick hacking, and I do a lot of quick hacking. Golang is nice for production. Yeah, I'm much more on the former than the latter side. I make a lot of projects that are like if we like take a little miniature tour through my GitHub. Um, a lot of the stuff that I make is like very small plugin stuff. So I'll make like plugins for Obsidian and like I'll make little like web servers and stuff like that. I'll make like some of my projects are bigger. Like I'll do some stuff with like GPT level stuff. But even that usually I do more directly as like a kind of translation network between JavaScript and whatever the parent language that the server is written in, because like I just kind of like function on the API level. Um, but yeah, I'm definitely that's that. You know, if I want to pick up a new language, I think Go is definitely up there. And your arguments have been very enticing in terms of maybe considering Go over Rust or any of the other languages that I could be interested in pursuing. 100% pick it up as a Node.js replacement. That's interesting. What do you do? So, like, I guess I'm kind of grilling your mind here. Like, what is the benefit of just using it over like TypeScript? Because like, don't you still need to use JavaScript? Like, if for example, if I wanted to do a Next.js app, I would do that's like full stack, right? So like, I can write a Next.js app that has Node and React powering the whole thing, right? Like my website is a Next.js site, for example, and then I can also like do hosting and stuff like that. But like performance, like if I don't get like billions of hits, right? Like I don't know. I feel like that's like the thing that always trips software developers up, myself included, is that like it's really easy to be like, I want to choose like the fastest performance language, but then like the project never gets done, you know? Versus just kind of like choosing something like I have a lot of friends who are still using Rails and they have a good time because they just get stuff done. You know what I mean? They're like Rails new, and then they're like, here's my database structure, and then here's my like handlebars front end, and then they just are off to the races, and like they finish like 30 things in a day. Versus like even with Node, the Node space, the differences between Yarn and NPX these days and like Deno and Bun, which is just like now popping off. There's like so much stuff in the JavaScript space that like just moves so quickly, I suppose. It really kind of like prevents, I think, people. I don't know if you've ever seen Fireship before, but he talks about this stuff a lot where he tries a bunch of web frameworks, and it's just like there's so many web frameworks and it's like you just continue to write the same to-do list app over and over. So I'll probably stick with JavaScript for the majority of my life. I'll probably be a JavaScript guy who occasionally dabbles in other languages when I need specific things done. Like when I'm doing machine learning, I do Python for sure. When I'm doing Arduino stuff, I do Arduino C. When I'm doing game development, I use C Sharp, Unity C Sharp, which is the easiest type of C Sharp. um, but if I ever head into like if I need a faster replacement for Node.js, I definitely will look into Golang. So thank you so much for that recommendation. That's really nice. And speaking of recommendation, semantic search.